true spirituality. A little bit from Ernest Holmes, Living the Science of Mind, on page 33. It's titled, "What is Spirituality?" And in it he says, "We hear a great deal about certain people being spiritual, and there's nothing wrong with this provided it does not become a modeling attitude. Spirituality is rather an elusive thing. I cannot think of a better illustration to use than to compare it with the idea of beauty, which a great artist must entertain if he is to create a worthwhile object of art. We do not say that such one has great beauty, but that he has great appreciation for beauty. We know that the artist feels beauty, senses its presence, and to a degree communes with it, in drawing it into his own soul that he may outbreathe it through his performance." He says, "But perfect technique alone does not result in great art. We speak of the soul of an artist, the subtle and indefinable something which is the essence of all art. This is a definite feeling, a communion with invisible harmony, the supreme being, the mind and heart of God, or the creative essence. It is the same with what we call spirituality, which is a word too often misused. From our viewpoint, spirituality is one's recognition of the universe as a living presence of good, truth, beauty, peace, power, and love. And to this should be added happiness, joy, enthusiasm, and universal harmony, which, like the great rhythm of life, flows through everything." He says there's a vast difference between this type of spiritual consciousness and theological dogmas, or even logical arguments. It is an essence diffused, a consciousness transcendent, and a faith that has passed beyond the point of argument into conviction and union and complete acceptance. Spirituality is a constant, consistent attempt to feel the presence of God in everything and in everyone. And such an attitude need not be put into words, because words cannot express such a feeling. But out of the feeling, words will flow, and when they do, they will always be correct. Spirituality cannot be taught, but it can be felt. It can be practiced, it can be embodied. Each in his own consciousness must experience it in his own way, and his way will always be best for him. Indeed, it will be the only way he could do it, because in the secret precinct of the mind, which is alone with God, nothing else can enter. Listening daily to that which can only be felt, daily sensing and communing with that which is too intangible to put in words, one finds an essence flowing through one's thought which can be neither analyzed nor described. So that's true spirituality. And in order then for us to move beyond what's convenient, to move ourselves into no longer accepting what's mediocre, we've got to be looking for truth. We've got to be looking for beauty. We've got to be looking for peace. It's looking for love. It's looking for what's changed, and it's looking for what needs to be changed. Because it's convenient to do what you've always done. It's convenient to do what you've always done. It's convenient to blame and to judge. It's convenient. It's convenient to ask yourself the same questions over and over again and never make a decision. In case you don't know, it's convenient. Mediocre at best. Do I leave or do I stay? Convenient. Do I say something or do I stay quiet? Don't say nothing. Convenient. It's convenient to get engaged in doing something and not being. It's convenient to do and it's inconvenient to be. But convenience only leads you to mediocre. And so the truth is that I can think of a few things, a few areas in my own life where perhaps I'm settling on convenience. It's convenient. And yes, if I were going to be truthful, I would have to say it's pretty mediocre. And you would too if you would tell yourself the truth about your life. But the thing is that we can't just allow that to be the way our life is. If we settle every now and then, if we go for the $1 cup of coffee instead of the $5 cup of coffee, if we go for the sushi at one place that's around the store and around the corner, instead of taking the ride, the 5-minute ride or the 10-minute ride to get the fresh sushi, yeah, that's convenient, mediocre at best. Mediocre at best. If it's what we do from time to time, it's okay. But we cannot let it become our life. We can't allow convenience and mediocre be the way that we run our life. I was listening to a podcast, and on the podcast, this guy was saying that there are perhaps, I don't know, maybe 70,000 pizza parlors or places that make pizza in the world. And that they all pretty much use the same ingredients and pretty much have the same way of perfecting their pizza. And that all of it pretty much is mediocre. That a percent of the percentage is great pizza. And so if you're listening to this, if you're catching on to what I'm saying, then is that there's a lot of mediocrity, a lot of mediocre things in the world to run to call into your life, to invite into your life that's convenient. And a whole lot of people, that's why there's so many, a whole lot of people are racing to get the mediocre pizza. There's a whole lot of people racing to get the $1 cup of coffee. Come on, think about it. There's some things in your life that you just won't settle for. You'll get in your car and you'll take the ride. You'll pay the extra $5. You'll pay the extra $10. And then there's some things that you just settle on. See, it's inconvenient to put down every thought that you've ever had about a thing. It's inconvenient to put down every thought that you've ever had about a thing and to set aside every experience that you've ever had. It's inconvenient to lay your thoughts down about whatever is before you in your life, to lay your thoughts down about the story that you keep telling yourself, to lay every single thought that you've ever had about it down. And to begin to look for what has changed and to begin to look for what needs to be changed. It's inconvenient. It's another 5 minutes, Bayless, or perhaps another prayer. It is perhaps another opportunity for you to reach out to our wonderful practitioners, to reach out for someone to come in and to support you while you reacquaint yourself with what's within the eternal power and presence of God. But it's too inconvenient for most of us, because we'd rather have the dollar cup of coffee. We'd rather have convenience, and we are okay with mediocre. It's okay. It's not too bad. It won't lead you to change. If you want to change your life and what you walk through the doors for, you've got to be willing to do what's inconvenient. You've got to be willing to do what's inconvenient. To check in and to see what's changed, and to check in and to see what needs to be changed until you can get very clear that there's no longer anything for you to do, but just something for you to be. Because change is not always convenient. Peace is not always convenient. Freedom is not always convenient. But being willing to let the truth in, to let it enter in, and cultivating a mind that thinks greater than its current situation, and accepting the good that is at hand, that's inconvenient, and the things that we've got to be willing to do if we want to change our lives. It's the things that I've got to be willing to do, you've got to be willing to do. It's the thing that the Center of Peace has got to be willing to do, to think greater than our current situation, to begin to cultivate our mind, to move us into a new possibility, to move us into something that we've never even imagined, something we've never even experienced. See, and the rub here is that most people, I'm saying one more time, most people settle on convenient and mediocre. No, not you. Decide to act. Decide to look into your own life. Decide to sit in truth. Decide to tell yourself and know that it's true, that the work that you've been doing has changed you. And that nothing outside of you has to change, because you've changed. There's only one life to live as you change. No longer will we settle for mediocre and what's convenient. Let us all go forward looking for truth, looking for good, looking for beauty, looking for peace. Because when we do decide to act, decide to look for these things, what we'll discover, what you'll discover is without words. As the reading said, you can't even describe it. It's eternal, everlasting after everlasting. It is the good and the all good, but you got to make the decision to act. You've got to be willing to look at your life and to see what's changed and to see what needs to change. Now, practitioners, please join me as we allow ourselves then just to simply move into prayer with a great recognition of the all-pervasive life, the all-pervasive love, the joy, the peace that is at hand. Good and only good, God and only God, that I know that we are one with. That all that it is right where we are, and that all that we are is all that it is. And that there can be no separation. That the thing desired for is already at hand. So it's from that place and that space then that I speak my word for myself and for you. affirming and knowing, a presence that's so pervasive, a principle that's so absolute, that as we decide to act, to decide to be intentional, as we each decide to do what's inconvenient, that the act itself will release an energy that we've never experienced before, and that this energy is more than enough to move us into being and becoming love, to being and becoming beauty, to being and becoming truth, to being and being willing to look at our own lives, not desiring anything outside of us to change, but a great desire to be moved by the divine power and presence